A Chinese company just built an engine that gets 106 miles per gallon. Guinness World Records flew in, tested it, and made it official. Not a concept car, not a lab prototype, a real production sedan you can buy today. The Toyota Prius gets 57. The average American car gets 32. This engine does 106, and it just ended up in the record books as the most fuel-efficient mass production engine in human history. The company behind it? Nobody in Detroit or Tokyo saw them coming. To understand what Geely just pulled off, you have to start not with an engine, but with a farmer's son. Li Shufu was born in 1963 in Zhejiang province, a rural corner of China where nobody was sketching powertrain diagrams or dreaming about Guinness records. In 1986, he borrowed roughly $3,000 from his family and opened a small factory. The product? Refrigerator components. Unglamorous, practical, low-margin work. But Li Shufu wasn't building refrigerator parts because he loved refrigerators. He was learning how to build things, and more importantly, he was learning how to persist. By 1994, he had pivoted to motorcycles. By 1997, he announced he was going to build cars. The reaction from the industry was immediate and almost unanimous. Laughter. He had no automotive engineering background, no factory infrastructure, no institutional investors, no supply chain relationships. When journalists pressed him on how difficult car manufacturing actually was, he reportedly shrugged and said something to the effect of, "A car is just 4 wheels and 2 couches." Industry veterans moved on, assuming he'd disappear. He didn't. In 2001, Geely became the first private Chinese company ever granted a government license to manufacture automobiles in China. That was already historic. But Li Shufu was operating on a completely different timeline than the people watching him. In 2007, he wrote a letter to Ford Motor Company offering to buy Volvo. Ford didn't respond. He showed up in person at the Detroit Auto Show in 2008. Ford brushed him off again. He returned in 2009, better prepared, more determined, and with financing lined up. In 2010, he walked out of Ford's headquarters with Volvo in his portfolio, a brand with 60 years of European heritage, for $1.8 billion. The automotive world didn't know what to make of it. He wasn't finished. In 2018, Li Shufu purchased nearly 10% of Daimler AG, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, making him the single largest individual shareholder of one of the most recognized luxury brands on earth. The kid from the farming village who got laughed out of industry conversations in 1997 had quietly become the biggest investor in Mercedes-Benz. Today, Geely Group controls Volvo, Polestar, Lotus, Lynk & Co., and a joint venture that produces smart vehicles. The ambition that drove that entire acquisition streak is the same ambition that produced the engine we're about to discuss. Before we get to the engine itself, we need to understand the problem it's designed to solve, because the context makes the achievement land differently. Electric vehicles carry genuine promise. The technology is advancing fast, and the environmental potential is real. But the lived experience of owning one, particularly outside major metro areas, comes with a set of trade-offs that the marketing material consistently glosses over. Charging is the most visible friction point. On a routine commute, plugging in overnight works fine. On a road trip, the math changes. Even the fastest charging stations widely available today require 20 to 40 minutes to bring a battery from low to 80%. That's not a gas station stop. That's a scheduled interruption. Manageable solo, genuinely disruptive with children, a deadline, or a tight schedule. Cold weather compounds the problem significantly. Lithium-ion batteries lose efficiency in low temperatures. In practice, most electric vehicles shed 30 to 40% of their rated range when temperatures drop below freezing. That 300-mile range you paid $60,000 to access becomes roughly 180 miles on a January morning in Minnesota or Michigan. The advertised number and the usable number are not the same number in winter. Battery degradation is a financial reality that doesn't come up enough in mainstream EV coverage. Like any battery, the packs in electric vehicles lose capacity over time. When they eventually require replacement, and they will, the cost typically lands somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. That single expense can eliminate years of fuel savings in one transaction. Then there's the supply chain question that often gets omitted entirely. Electric vehicle batteries require lithium, cobalt, and nickel. Extracting those materials involves large-scale open-pit mining with significant environmental disruption. Cobalt in particular carries documented concerns about labor conditions in the regions where most of it originates. These aren't fringe arguments. They're acknowledged, ongoing issues the industry is actively working to address, but hasn't solved. Finally, the grid. The electrical infrastructure in the United States was built for a different era. The Department of Energy has been raising capacity concerns for years. Upgrading the national grid to support tens of millions of electric vehicles charging simultaneously is a long, expensive, politically complex project. It's not finished. It won't be finished soon. None of this makes electric vehicles a bad idea. They are part of the future, a significant part, but it does mean that for hundreds of millions of drivers globally, a fully electric vehicle right now is not a simple upgrade. It's a lifestyle restructuring. So here's the real question. What if you didn't have to ask people to restructure anything? What if you could build an internal combustion engine so efficient that the fundamental math of fuel consumption changed entirely? That's what Geely went to answer. In April 2026, at the Beijing Auto Show, Geely unveiled what they're calling the IFE, Intelligent Hybrid Electric Vehicle System. The engine at its core is designated the BHE-15. It's a 1.5-liter four-cylinder. Small displacement, entirely unremarkable on paper. The kind of engine size you'd associate with a basic economy hatchback, not a world record. The number Geely put on screen was 48.4% thermal efficiency. Here's what that means in plain terms. Every engine wastes energy. When fuel combusts inside a cylinder, a significant portion of that energy escapes as exhaust heat. More is lost to internal friction. Thermal efficiency measures how much of the fuel's total energy actually converts into forward motion. The higher the number, the less fuel you waste moving from A to B. The average engine on American roads today converts roughly 30 to 35% of fuel energy into useful movement. Everything else radiates into the atmosphere as heat. Toyota's hybrid engine, the Atkinson cycle system that made the Prius the global benchmark for fuel efficiency and held that position for decades, operates at approximately 41% thermal efficiency. That number was, for years, considered the ceiling of what was achievable in a mass-produced vehicle. No one had pushed past it in a car a regular person could actually purchase. Geely hit 48.4%. Guinness World Records flew in, conducted independent testing, and certified the result. It is now officially the highest thermal efficiency ever recorded for a mass-production car engine. The comparison that makes this number viscerally real. Formula One engines, the most technologically advanced, most expensively engineered, most obsessively optimized internal combustion machines ever built by human beings, operate at approximately 50% thermal efficiency. Teams spend hundreds of millions of dollars annually pushing that figure by fractions of a percentage point. Geely's production engine, available in a car regular consumers can buy, sits within 2 percentage points of a Formula One power unit. That is not a minor achievement. That is a categorical shift. An efficient engine on a dynamometer is one thing. Real-world performance is another. Geely paired the BHE-15 with a 308 horsepower electric motor and connected both to an AI-driven energy management system that continuously monitors road conditions, speed, load, and driver behavior, then adjusts in real time how the engine and motor divide the work. They tested this system in the Geely Galaxy M8 Grand Sedan on a closed circuit in Hainan province under standardized conditions. Average fuel consumption, 2.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Translated to American terms, 106 miles per gallon. Guinness certified that number independently, separate from the engine efficiency record. 2 verified world records from one vehicle program. To put 100 cis MPG into tangible terms, a standard 15-gallon fuel tank at 30 miles per gallon gives you 450 miles of range. That same 15-gallon tank at 106 miles per gallon gives you approximately 1,590 miles. That's Los Angeles to Denver, and most of the way back on a single fill-up. The direct comparison that matters most. In 2024, Toyota drove a purpose-prepared Prius from Los Angeles to New York to showcase the absolute best their hybrid technology could deliver under ideal, carefully managed conditions. They averaged 92.9 miles per gallon across the full journey. Automotive media called it remarkable. It was. Geely beat that number by more than 12% with a production sedan, not a specially prepared demonstration vehicle. Geely's spokesperson stated directly that their technology would comprehensively surpass Japanese hybrid engineering. That's a pointed statement aimed squarely at Toyota and Honda. the two companies that have owned the hybrid conversation for 30 years. When you compare 48.4% to Toyota's 41% and 106 MPG to 92.9, the numbers don't require much editorial commentary. What Geely did doesn't exist in isolation. BYD's fifth-generation hybrid system reached 46.6% thermal efficiency in 2024. Aito's L7 hit 540%. Chang'an, Seis, Chery, and Great Wall have all released vehicles with combined ranges exceeding 2,000 kilometers, over 300 miles, on a single tank and charge. These are production vehicles available now. Meanwhile, Toyota and Honda remain at 41%. Ford and General Motors are largely still operating below 35%. That gap isn't a competitive disadvantage. It's a generational one. The difference between a cathode ray tube and an OLED display. And this technology isn't staying inside China. Geely owns Volvo. It owns Polestar and Lotus. It holds a joint venture with Mercedes-Benz. Through powertrain licensing agreements, the BSG15 and EACV system are already being integrated into Volvo's product roadmap. These engines are heading to European showrooms and eventually to American dealerships in vehicles wearing badges that feel completely familiar to Western buyers. For everyday drivers, particularly in cold climates, rural areas, or anywhere the charging network hasn't arrived yet, a production hybrid capable of 106 miles per gallon isn't a compromise. It's the practical answer. Right now, today, without waiting for grid upgrades or infrastructure build-out. The man who borrowed $3,000 got laughed out of every serious industry conversation and still bought Volvo and became Mercedes-Benz's largest individual shareholder. Just produced the most fuel-efficient mass production engine in history. The industry that dismissed him in 1997 now has to figure out how to respond. The future of the automobile wasn't decided in Detroit, it wasn't decided in Tokyo, it was decided in Hangzhou, and the rest of the world is only beginning to catch up.